Welcome back to our channel, guys. Today is an absolutely beautiful day to dive deep into the scandalous, twist-filled world we all love. Grab your favorite beverage, settle into a comfortable spot, and let's unpack the latest jaw-dropping developments. We have a lot of ground to cover today, and trust me, you will want to hear every single detail of this spectacular, poetic downfall. We often operate under the assumption that a cunning mastermind always holds the upper hand until the very last second of their grand scheme. But if you ask me, the most dangerous place for a predator is actually inside their own meticulously crafted trap. Hayley truly believed that successfully bringing Bill back to the comfort of their home meant she had finally won the ultimate prize. She thought the hard part was over. The hospital staff was no longer hovering, the security guards were a thing of the past, and there was no one left to monitor his intake. She had him exactly where she wanted him, isolated and vulnerable, completely unaware of the lethal cocktail waiting for him. She was quietly, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike, confident that her path to a $10 million payout was finally clear of any obstacles. To fully understand the gravity of what is about to happen, we have to look at the sheer arrogance of her preparation. Hayley had already laced a glass of orange juice with a catastrophic mega dose of the toxin. This wasn't the slow burn serum she had been using for weeks to mimic a natural decline. This was the fatal blow. She left that brightly colored, deadly beverage sitting out, assuming that she possessed complete control over the environment and the people within it. She thought she could orchestrate the exact moment Bill would take a sip. But control is a fragile illusion, especially in a household fueled by ego, resentment, and deep-seated familial trauma. Have you ever noticed how the universe seems to possess a very dark, deeply ironic sense of humor? While Hayley was silently gloating over her impending victory, a massive, explosive storm was brewing right in the center of the living room. Bill and Naomi were locked in a vicious, escalating argument over the future of his prestigious law firm. Bill, ever the stubborn patriarch, was absolutely adamant that his daughter must step up, take the reins, and protect the legacy he had spent his entire life building. He looked at Naomi not just as his child, but as his rightful heir, the only person he trusted to maintain his empire. But Naomi was pushing back with a ferocity that matched his own. Let's look at a concrete example of this heavy burden to understand exactly why Naomi was fighting so hard. Just days ago, Naomi was forced to step in and manage the chaotic fallout at the law office, fending off aggressive settlement offers and keeping the peace while her father was laid up in a hospital bed fighting for his life. She didn't ask for that responsibility. She was thrust into it during a terrifying medical crisis. She had to navigate office politics, appease nervous clients, and assert dominance over seasoned lawyers, all while terrified that her father might not survive the night. That kind of pressure leaves a mark, and Naomi was entirely drained by the experience. The argument between them wasn't just about a job title, it was a fundamental clash of boundaries. Naomi has stated time and time again that she does not want to work for her father. She has her own life, her own battles, and her own future to worry about. The sheer exhaustion of the hospital ordeal had broken her down. She was dealing with her own severe health anxieties, trying to celebrate her birthday, and attempting to maintain a relationship. Yet she was constantly being sucked back into the vortex of Bill's demands. She did not want to carry a burden that she had never chosen for herself, and she was finally putting her foot down, refusing to be the sacrificial lamb for his corporate legacy. We can all relate to that profound feeling of utter burnout, can't we? Think about a time when you were pushed to your absolute limits by a family member who simply refused to acknowledge your boundaries. That is exactly where Naomi was standing. She was looking at a man who had just survived a massive heart attack, a man who now relied on a pacemaker, and yet he was still trying to dictate her life. The emotional toll was staggering. You could hear the desperation in her voice as she pleaded with him to understand that she was exhausted, that she had given enough, and that she could not be the savior of his firm. Why is Bill so utterly terrified of letting someone else, specifically Tomas, take the reins? If you ask me, it comes down to pure, unadulterated alpha male ego. Bill simply cannot stomach the idea of a subordinate sitting in his chair, making decisions that carry his name. During the argument, Bill made it aggressively clear that he would rather watch the firm burn to the ground than hand the operational control over to Tomas. He views his firm as an extension of his own identity, and admitting that he needs Tomas to run, it feels like an admission of his own mortality and weakness. Consider what happened with Tomas recently as a specific example of why this paranoia exists. Tomas deliberately tried to push a medical malpractice settlement behind Naomi's back, directly undermining her authority and trying to play the hero with the opposing counsel. When Bill found out, he fiercely reprimanded Tomas, threatening his partnership and putting him firmly in his place. Bill knows that Tomas is ambitious, hungry, and waiting for a moment of weakness to seize power. So, in Bill's mind, Naomi is the only safe option, the only blood relative who can keep the usurpers at bay. The shouting match reached a fever pitch. The volume in the room was deafening as father and daughter verbally sparred, neither willing to concede an inch. Bill's face was flushed, his heart rate undoubtedly spiking, completely ignoring the fragile state of his newly implanted pacemaker. Naomi was standing her ground, tears of frustration likely stinging her eyes as she defended her right to live her own life. The energy in the room was chaotic, frantic, and entirely unpredictable. And it was precisely this blinding chaos that set the stage for the ultimate twist of fate. Let me paint a picture of how a manipulator operates when they feel they are losing control of the narrative. Hayley, hearing the escalating shouts echoing through the halls, realized that this intense family drama was disrupting her perfectly timed murder plot. She couldn't have Naomi lingering around, asking questions, or worse, calling for medical help if Bill suddenly collapsed. So she decided it was time to intervene. She walked into the room, expertly interrupting the heavy emotional standoff. She feigned a sudden wave of dizziness, pressing a hand to her forehead, playing the role of the fragile, overwhelmed wife to absolute perfection. Her goal was simple: break the tension, guilt Naomi into leaving, and redirect Bill's attention entirely back to her. She looked at Bill, her voice weak and pleading, and asked him to please pour her a glass of water. It was a classic diversion tactic, but here is where the brilliance of this narrative truly shines. In her attempt to manipulate the moment, Hayley completely forgot to account for the physical environment she had rigged. She assumed Bill, the doting husband, would walk to the kitchen and fetch her a fresh glass of water. But Bill was agitated, he was distracted, his mind still racing from the furious debate with Naomi. He wasn't thinking clearly. He just wanted to pacify his complaining wife so he could get back to lecturing his daughter. He didn't go to the kitchen. He didn't turn on the tap. Instead, he reached for the nearest available beverage on the table. Without a second thought, without even looking at what he was holding, Bill grabbed the glass of orange juice, the exact same glass Hayley had meticulously spiked with a lethal megadose of toxin just minutes prior, and handed it directly to her. It is like watching a tragic, poetic play unfold in real time. Remember when Hayley sat in that coffee shop coldly joking with her accomplice about needing enough poison for the entire family because they all got on her nerves. She had laughed at the idea of playing God with their lives. She had been so incredibly smug, so certain of her intellectual superiority over everyone in that town. And now, in a moment of pure, unadulterated irony, the universe was handing her a literal taste of her own medicine. Caught completely off guard by the swiftness of his action and perhaps too deeply committed to her performance of being dizzy and parched, Hayley took the glass. Maybe she was distracted by Naomi's glaring presence, or maybe her own adrenaline clouded her judgment. Whatever the reason, the mastermind made the ultimate fatal error. She raised the glass to her lips and drank the orange juice. She swallowed the very poison she had painstakingly sourced, measured, and prepared to end her husband's life. The immediate aftermath of that single swallow is going to change the landscape of this entire community. How long will it take for the megadose to hit her system? We are talking about a concentration designed to mimic a massive, fatal heart attack in a grown man. When her body begins to shut down, when the tremors and the double vision strike her instead of Bill, how will she explain it? Will she confess in a moment of agonizing panic, or will she try to maintain the lie even as her organs fail? If you ask me, this is the most satisfying karma we have witnessed in a long time, but it leaves us with so many burning questions. What will Naomi do when she watches her stepmother collapse? Will Bill finally realize the monster he has been defending? Stay tuned, guys, because the fallout from this poison chalice is going to be absolutely legendary.